Good morning and welcome to the Rio Grande Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Tammi Lambert. I'm a registered practitioner here at the center. I'd like to welcome all of you here today. It is July 5th and it is Independence Day weekend. So I'm sure that all of you have heard a lot of fireworks lately if you're anything like us. But we definitely want to welcome you here. We have a number of people that are working with us today. Annette is here, hidden away, doing technical assistance. And we have Kathy Mathiasen and Alicia Kitts on High Watch. And Kim and Kamatara are backstage, ready to and primed to provide us with some amazing music. So let's get started. We're just going to start with, I'll do an invocation and we'll have a talk. And then we'll do a spiritual mind treatment and a meditation. And then we'll move on from there. So welcome everyone. Let's just settle in and breathe in and go into our invocation. I know that there is a divine presence of oneness. I know that this is energy and consciousness and light, and that it has these attributes of peace and divine order and power and life and love. And I know it's beauty and harmony, and I know that all of this is right here, right now, this presence that is here. I know that there is nothing that exists that is not this power and this light with this creative force. And I know that I am one with that. I know I'm one with God and one with all. I know that everyone here is. And so I bring my attention to correlate my attention on our oneness, that we are in this moment, breathing together, loving together. We are of one life, one mind, one beauty, one harmony. And I know that our time together today is so blessed. And I just know it is. And so it is. Well, I'm going to start with the talk. It's kind of funny because usually when we do the services, there's a lot of things that precede the talk, but we're going to start with that and then we'll spend more time together. My talk title is Shining the Light of Liberty and Justice for All Through America's Valley of the Shadow of Death. Now, I know that we have been having a lot of conversations in the world right now about race relations, and we've had some questions about how do we as a spiritual community really integrate that. And my talk is really talking about the purpose of it is just to remind us that our technology as science of mind, as new age, is actually uniquely situated to cause a transformation in the world around this issue. However, if we do not use it right, it can be uniquely situated to cause more harm. So I'm going to talk about the differences and how we interpret those things. So I hope you kind of buckle your seatbelts because that's going to be what we're going to be looking at right now. All right, so it's really confronting sometimes to be a person of color right now in this society where there's so much racial animosity. It's like it all came to the fore. And a lot of people of color are raw. Black Indigenous people of color, I have experienced, a lot of my friends and family were really kind of raw because these incidents that have come up lately have brought up in us some of the things that we have been kind of tucking away. And we're no longer able to just kind of tuck it away and be quiet. It's like all of these things came up to be healed. So I've been really thinking about how would I talk about this with you in a way that's productive and useful and also promotes our oneness. And so I was thinking about it a lot. And one of the first things that I really wanted to talk about, you know, it being the 4th of July weekend, is really looking at how much I love this country. You know, the country of the United States of America was built on spiritual principles of divine justice, spiritual principles of liberty and equality and prosperity. These are things that we believe in, and it was definitely an ideal. And I think it's a spiritual idea whose time has come. However, up until now, we have not seen the fulfillment of that. As an African-American person, I've been doing my genealogy chart and being confronted with the realities of millions of African people having the country oppressed and being brought here to this country as slaves, and then living the next few hundred years and dealing with oppression and systemic racism. And as an indigenous person, having our lands taken and having genocide and massacres and being swept away of language and culture and having to deal with boarding schools and systemic oppression in that way. And everyone has a story about that. And it's been the reality of our existence as we have been in this country. And sometimes Science of Mind or New Thought will come along and say, well, we really, we don't want to dwell in the past, or we don't want to dwell in the negativity. But by doing that, that denies us the opportunity to shine light into what has been America's shadow past. And it inhibits us from being able to move into the future. So because we're talking about this now, it gives us an opportunity to look at some of these conversations about racism and flesh it out. Now, one of the things, if you've ever taken a class from me, you know that, the answer to every question is oneness, right? Oneness is the answer to all questions, I think, in all of spirituality. And that is the idea that we are one in the spirit, that there's a divine presence, a divine consciousness that lives in me, that lives as me, that lives through me, and you too. And that there's no difference based on race, color, creed, language, place of origin. There's no difference in spirit. We're just having different spiritual experiences. I love the concept of oneness. It is the foundation for all that's good in our understanding of spirituality. But the oneness is also, even though we have oneness, we also live in a world where there's a race consciousness. And race consciousness is, and we'll talk more about that, but it's important to understand that race consciousness has us understand that we are living in a world that is not necessarily inside of this understanding of oneness. Now, race consciousness is an idea and a term that Ernest Holmes used to talk about not races and races, but the human race, that there's a consciousness of human race, that there's a collective consciousness. And Holmes said that there is a national mind. There is a mind of a nation. He said this atmosphere of nations is very real. It carries the tradition of the nation with it. So we have the mind of history, and we find that history is written into the mental atmosphere of the planet, a record of everything that has happened. So if we were to look at a record of everything that has happened in this country to Black, Indigenous people of color, we realize that this collective thought pattern, this energy pattern, is operating through all that we are interacting with. And so we are subject to this collective thought, and it acts as a powerful race suggestion, meaning a human race suggestion. In his writing, Mental Healing, Ernest Holmes said practically all the world is hypnotized by race consciousness, and what we need to do is dehypnotize it. In his writing, A New Horizons, he says, we are all hypnotized more or less by what all the world has believed. So there's this flow of race consciousness. And what we're learning is that unless we bring our attention to it, we could get swept away. Now, in Creative Mind, Holmes said that karma is both individual and collective. That world thought or race thought does have a certain influence on each one of us, and will continue to have this influence until we free ourselves from it. So what that means is when you look at karma, when you look at our experience in dealing with race consciousness, we see that we have an individual relationship to it, and we have a collective relationship to it. Now, as a person of color, when if I express that I have had a negative experience with racism, and that I have had a negative experience with marginalization and being separate or silenced, there are two ways that you as a listener would deal it, and that I, as the person who experienced it, would deal with it. So I deal with it, my own healing, in my individual consciousness. But there's also a group consciousness that has to do healing on this particular karmic issue. And what will it take? Karma is something it's about repeating a pattern until we learn the lesson. So what will it take for us as a community, as a collective consciousness, to learn that lesson? So it's not just the problem of the person of color. It's not my special interest. It's actually the interest of our entire collective community to heal individually and collectively. Otherwise, we continue to cycle, we continue to learn the lesson, or we continue to need to learn the lesson. So one of the ways in which the law of attraction works is that we address our individual healing and we address our collective healing. So the law of attraction doesn't mean that the person experiencing the racism is the only one that needs to be healed. It's the entire world that would bring together this need for transformation. So oneness says that we're all in this together. And so it's not just you or me, it's we. Now, race suggestion is recorded in the subjective mind of each person. So there's a tendency to reproduce in our experience what the human race has been through and what it experiences throughout history. And so we tend to repeat the mistakes of the past unless we take dominion and responsibility over our own thoughts and beliefs and change that tendency. So the idea of race consciousness means that we can't ignore the situation of racism in this country and sweep it under the rug and operate as if it doesn't exist. What race consciousness means is that we are all in this together and that there's no hiding out. So we're either supporting the status quo or we're changing and transforming the world. Now, if we're flowing along with the status quo, we see the status quo in this country, and it has not been in favor of oneness. There hasn't been a lot of experience of people of color where there's been equality and liberty and justice for all. We have a lot of examples that we can go into. We're talking about that is not fully realized ideal now. So the status quo, flowing along with the status quo, means that we are in some way supporting a status quo that does not support full equality, justice, and for all and all of that. So what we have to be are anti-racists and people who are bucking the system of his systemic collective consciousness. And so we have the idea that we can do this through some powerful spiritual mind treatments and practices, which we'll talk about. But so often, because we don't want to align ourselves with these negative thoughts and negative experiences, what we see is that we often approach color blindness as an idealism, thinking that that's oneness, and it's not. So there's a book called Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria? And that book actually says that color blindness is a kind of racism. Dr. Beverly Daniel Tatum said that color blindness is where people deny or minimize the degree of racial inequality or explain contemporary racial inequality as the result of factors unrelated to racial dynamics. So if I'm experiencing racism, color blindness would say, oh, well, that didn't happen because of color, right? So I remember when I was an attorney applying for jobs, and I wasn't getting them, and I was getting racial slurs in the interview. My other non-Indigenous folks were telling me, oh, it's because of this other reason. It's not because of the racism, when I was clearly experiencing the racism. So it explains away the racism for and naming it as some other dynamic. Sometimes color blindness can be race evasion or color evasion, where someone says, well, I don't see color, we're all the same. This author says that sameness is a way of denying or rejecting the idea of racial superiority, and it overlooks the fact that Black people in America are not having the same experiences as white people in America. Another example is power evasion, where we deny that racial dynamics have anything to do with power. And the idea is that everyone has the same power, ability to succeed, and those that don't only have themselves to blame. So to deny the experience of racism under the guise of color blindness falsely perpetuates the myth of equal access and opportunity. And it blames people of color for their lot in life. And it allows whites to live their lives in ignorance, to be naive and innocent. Another way of doing that is being race adverse. It's the idea that talking about race issues or racial inequality makes things worse. And that if someone brings it up, that they're playing the race card. And what that does is it silences individuals within institutions that would bring forward unconscious ideas of or experiences of racism. The experiences of one being, someone might be hurt or defensive. Are you calling me a racist? And then the question becomes, the whole attention of the issue becomes on the fact that the person of color called someone a racist, rather than dealing with the systemic racial issues and actually listening. So what do we do with this racial consciousness of colorblind racism? In Power for Good, Ernest Holmes says that the whole race has believed in tragedy for so long that this suggestion of race belief arises within each of us. He said, we must detect it and deny its power, always affirming in its stead the divine presence. And this is the way to use the law. He says to use it definitely, never be chaotic in your use of it, always be specific. So he said, detect it and then deny its power. So long as we are not able to detect it and we're saying no such thing exists, or there isn't this thing in race consciousness, or we're just going to flow with the status quo, what we're doing is we're losing the opportunity to actually detect it and cause it to lose its power. One of my teachers, which you've heard me quote many times, says that we cannot heal what we cannot acknowledge. We cannot heal what we can't acknowledge. So what we want to do is make sure that we are acknowledging what is so and not ignoring it, and that so that we can heal from it. For example, if someone had a broken leg, to deny that they have the broken leg does not have them have the ability to address the remedy. It just means that we're living in a land of a la-la land where we're not engaged with reality. So when we acknowledge that there is an understanding that there is a race consciousness of racism in this country, we have the opportunity to not deny the truth, but deny the power of what we see. What we deny is the power of the thing to continue to run us in the background, have the power of it to have us unconsciously promote or condone it, or turn a blind eye to it, which is just as bad. We deny the power of racism and separation and marginalization to have any power over us, and we deny the power of that shadow to run this country. That is what we deny. So by looking at it and by addressing it, we actually are putting ourselves in the position to be able to cause a powerful transformation, both in ourselves individually and collectively. So by doing spiritual mind treatment, meditation, and prayer, we change the messages that are recorded in this subconscious mind and therefore change our experiences. And we make ourselves incompatible for that negativity place to show up, right? There, we are no longer the petri dish by our unconscious behavior, allowing the status quo to continue. This is actually a very powerful spiritual idea, is that what we're going to do is we're going to break it down. We're going to see through it. We're going to know it for exactly what it is. And where truth is known, the radiance of its light destroys everything that is not truth. So this is powerful shadow work that this country is engaging in right now. And as we say in Science of Mind, it's being healed to be revealed. So as long as we're willing to accept that it is being revealed, we have the opportunity to heal it. We have the opportunity to be a part of a powerful liberation theology. And the world is calling for us right now. The world is calling for us for such a time as this. This is the time for us to take on a powerful transmutation of the world from a lower energy of shadow into a higher energy of life and light. So what I want to do is give us an opportunity to ground that in. I'm going to go into a spiritual mind treatment, and I'm going to use some elements from pranic healing. I'm going to do parts of a twin heart meditation. So I know that we've been energetic and getting into this, but I just want you to take a moment and settle in and just breathe. We're going to do a meditation and bring in this divine presence, bring our awareness to it. So I know that this presence, this divine consciousness is transformative, that there is no power, no energy that is greater than this divine presence of God. I know that there is no power, no shadow that is more important, more powerful than the light of the divine. And I call on right now this divine spirit, this divine light within each of us. I know that I am one with that. I know that everyone here is one with that. And I just invoke that power. And I know that every single energy center within us is aligned with this divine oneness, divine peace, divine harmony, with all the blessing. And so I just bring my attention to this light in me. And I allow the light of the divine to follow and flow through me in the most beautiful and powerful ways. And so I just bring my attention to my heart. And I open my heart and I imagine my family. I imagine someone I just love unconditionally, without reservation. I just love, love, love this person. And I invite you to just bring your attention to this person that you love and expand that unconditional heart love to every person in your family, your friends, your community, and just allow that love connection. And then expand that to the entire world. And just see the planet as a small ball in front of you. And if you will, just open your hands in blessing and allow that pink light stream of love to just pour through and from you to the entire planet. That is a pink light of love without reservation. Bring your attention up to your crown, to the top of your head, knowing that there is divine light, divine love. And allow that golden light from the mind, from the heart of God that lives within you to pour through your hands. We're going to say the prayer of Saint Francis of Assisi. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. Just think of all the people that may have hurt you and flood them with peace, love, and forgiveness. For all the people suffering right now, bless them with hope and faith and a better tomorrow. Where there is darkness, there is light. We sow light. Darkness is ignorance. So we flood them with so much light that they know we are all spiritual beings having this physical experience. And place your attention on your crown. There is golden light to all your friends, your family, the city, the state, the entire world. From the heart of God, may every person, every being be blessed with loving kindness. May all be blessed with great joy and happiness. May all be blessed with understanding. May all be blessed with spiritual light. Unconditional, everyone. I know this is so. And so as we give, we receive. And so I know that as we give this light, that as we are the flow in the channel, that every single person is blessed, every single being is blessed without reservation. We bless the planet, the actual land, the water, the creatures that swim in the water, the creatures that fly above, the two-leggeds, the four-leggeds. Every person, every being, we bless Mother Earth and everyone on it in all realms. And so I know this is so. I allow this golden liquid light to flow through me, this pink light of love, loving every single one without reservation inside of oneness. And so I call it so, with so much thanksgiving, with so much gratitude, for Spirit using each of us as an instrument of peace. And so with this gratitude, I release this word into the law, knowing that it is so, that it cannot be but so, and so it is. So what we are doing is we are making our consciousness compatible with the divine energy. And so we know that in this prayer, that as we give, we receive. And so I want to give each of you the opportunity just to take a moment and breathe. And bring yourself back in. I want to provide this opportunity to give you an opportunity to share. And so at this point, we will give you an opportunity to share your abundance. If you are blessed by this ministry, if you are blessed by the Rio Grande Center for Spiritual Living, you are highly energizing and highly charging all your finances. So let's say our affirmation together. I am abundant and I give from my abundance. I am prosperous and I give from my prosperity. My blessings of spirit are as abundant as the stars. And so I give and receive generously. And so it is. So at this point, I'm going to turn the service over to Ken and Kamatara. Hi, Ken and Kamatara.
Hi, everybody.
And hey, everyone. So we're going to let you do your thing. I know you have a beautiful song to sing.
Thanks, Tammy. Hello, everyone. Good morning. And Tammy, thank you so much for your message. I really appreciate that in our spiritual community, we can get honest and have tough and important conversations, because if you can't do that in your safe, beautiful spiritual community, where can you do that? So thank you so much for all that you shared this morning. It's really important. And the song that we have for you today, actually, our dear friend Vince Gonzalez hipped us to the song, and we said, oh my gosh, we have to learn this for you. It is called Remedy by Zach Brown, and the words are mighty powerful, especially for this very special moment in history.
Yeah, and just one more thing about this song. What I appreciate about the community is the Zach Brown Band. It's the kind of band you'd expect to see on tour if you're going to see a Jimmy Buffett show. They're the other band on the bill. So if in a community where you can pull from the Zach Brown Band to get the message across, that's kind of groovy too.
We see new thought everywhere. We're excited to see it in pop music, and in this case, a country song. All right,
Yeehaw.
let's do it.
I've been looking for a sound that makes my heart sing. I've been looking for a melody that makes the church bells ring. Not looking for the fame or the fortune it might bring. In love, in music, and light. Jesus preached the golden rule. Buddha taught it too. Gandhi said, eye for an eye makes the whole world go blind. With a little understanding, we can break these chains that we've been handed. I got the medication, and love is the remedy. Pray to be stronger and wiser. Know you get what you give. Love one another. Amen. Amen. I've been thinking about the mark that I'll be leaving. I've been looking for a truth I can't believe in. I got everything I need. Let this heart be my guide. In love, in music, in life. I'm not saying I'm a wise man. Heaven knows there's much that I'm still finding, making my way down this winding road, holding on to what I love, yeah, and leaving the rest behind for love, for music, for life. Pray to be stronger and wiser. No, you get what you give. Love one another. Love is a remedy. We're all in this world together. Life's a gift that we have to treasure. Happiness now, that is a measure. Love is a remedy. Everyone can be forgiven. One love and one religion. Open up your heart and listen. Love is a remedy. Pray to be stronger and wiser. Now you get what you give. God is love one another. Amen. Amen. Amen.
We're so glad you're here this morning, and thank you so much for all that you're doing for the center in thoughts and words and deeds, in donations, every way that we come together to support this message and to support each other and to support our work in our corner of the world. We appreciate that. And also in my universe, I have two announcements to share. We still are joining people together for a White Supremacy and Me learning circle. So as people come to me and say, oh yes, I want to do that book. It takes about 28 days. There's reading, journaling, unpacking. It is deep and abiding work, very profound. But as people come together and coalesce around a certain time, then I launch the group and then they share that experience. It takes about 6 weeks for that. And we've got 3 groups so far. And as more come, we will send more off. It is very important work for us to be doing right now. And then also in broadcast land, we have been setting up the equipment. We've got some final meetings happening this week to plug in the last of the video camera, the cables, the sound booth, all that fabulous hootenanny behind the scenes. And we are going to do a practice broadcast on Tuesday night. In fact, Mr. Andrew Cooper, amazing vocalist, is going to be joining us again. Oh, have we missed him? So we're very excited that, Andrew is going to be coming back. If you want to check him out on Facebook and see some of his performances, you can see a bit more about him. And we're just super excited. And so thank you to Annette and Mason and Stephen Day from the Albuquerque Center for Spiritual Living has been helping us too. So we are pulling it together. So I'll pass it back over to Tammi. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kamatara, and thank you, Ken. I love this song, and I'm really excited about the ministry that you guys are working on. So a couple more announcements. We send out the newsletter, so you probably are seeing a lot of this, what we're saying in the newsletter. But the next 2 Sundays, Sunday, July 12th and 19th, Sunday services will resume from the center, but without congregants. So we'll see how that goes. The week after that, Sunday, July 26th, we're looking to have Sunday service with congregants, but don't get too excited because we don't know what the governors, the state governors' mandates are going to be. There may be some rolling back. So just kind of stay posted on that. But whenever we do come back, we will be doing so with a lot of safety measures, in fact. If you would like prayer support, just make sure that let's see, I'm going to show you our compassionate ministries, and the number to contact a practitioner. So licensed practitioners are available online or via telephone from 8 to 8. So check out these numbers and look at our website and our newsletter for updated and current numbers. The other thing is I hear there's Zoom yoga. So look at our website with Christina because I think that's going to be pretty exciting. So if you're trying to make sure that you're in optimal health and fitness, check out our Zoom yoga. There are other opportunities and information on the newsletter. So if you haven't seen it so far, check it out. So I want to invite everyone to the Zoom room. I'm going to end with the benediction. The benediction is just gratitude. I'm so grateful for all of you. I'm so grateful for our time and our community and for all the love. And so I just know that as we move into the next room, as we move into the rest of our week, that we are walking forward, keeping the blessings and the spirit and the love, and that all is well in our world. And so I know that is. So I'm going to sign off for now, but join us in the Zoom room for our morning coffee. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.